All right. Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Whiskey Wednesday. And here we are on the back porch. Clearly, the season is changing. Sun is down already. So sad to see summer go, but also excited to see fall come. Favorite season for myself. Now, today's show is going to be an interesting interview and tasting. So backstage, we have Jay West, otherwise known as Take, who has many, many hats. So we'll go over a little bit of his background, but also we'll go over some of the new releases he has on his brand, such as the Reveries. So that is the general idea for today's show, but we'll also kick things off recapping some of our Still Austin experience for you too. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. I may have made a mistake, though, because even though the sun's down, I'm already starting to sweat. So we'll see what I look like by the end of the stream. Now, speaking of sweating, we were in Austin, Texas, just a couple days ago. Kelsey, let's bring you on first. What was your favorite part of that trip? As you say hi to everybody.
What's up, everybody? Cheers and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah, it was hot and muggy down in Austin, Texas on Thursday and Friday, I guess almost a week ago. I think my favorite part had to be the master blending masterclass that we got while we were there from Nancy. I was trying to soak it all in at 9 something in the morning, not literally just the whiskey, but all of the knowledge that was going on at the same time. It was, man, there was a lot that she was trying to impart to us about her blending process, but also just some of the things that we were tasting and the whiskeys that we were tasting. And then we got to go to their experimental side and see some things that they might be working on and playing with. So that's always fun. But that was probably the best part of just the bucket list of being able to do a pick with her. But more than that, just like getting a master class in blending. So
yeah, definitely exciting things during that particular trip. I mean, gosh, we were only there for 48 hours, but I feel like we got like 3-4 days of experiences out of that.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Darrell, how are you feeling after Austin, buddy?
Feeling great. Just kind of wish the trip was a little bit longer. You know, those quick turn and burns coming across the country for me are a little rough, but the trip was fun nonetheless. Hanging out with all you guys is always great times. Rummaging through warehouses with Nancy and everybody else over there, man. No, nothing really kind of beats that. So no, it was definitely a great trip. Like I said, just wish it was maybe just a tad bit longer, an extra day or so would have been nice. But got to get back to reality on this end.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll keep everyone posted on Still Austin, maybe looking at a 3-month, 4-month window, but we'll communicate all of that as we know more. So just keep that one in the future. When it does come to the present, we haven't had a chance to talk about this on a live stream yet, but last week we did drop the old line pick. So last I heard, there's about 30 bottles of this left, cask strength, American single malt, finished in Madeira casks. So someone could post that link in chat if you got it. But otherwise, you can find this on our private Facebook group or in Patreon. So don't sleep on that one. As I said, only 30 bottles left. And so far, getting some really good reviews out of it. I heard some people were double dipping this week already.
Yeah, man, the Madeira finish on that is so prevalent without it being overtaking. One of the cool things that kind of was funny that it tied into the Still Austin is that we got to actually taste some Madeira that was from some cask that they were playing with, and we got to taste it. And man, I didn't realize how like savory that particular Madeira is. and just to have a baseline of what it should taste like, and then being able to come right back and taste it in an American single malt was a lot of fun. I think though, for me, and I don't know about you, Jeff, but that one tastes for cask strength, it had enough proof, but it didn't seem like it drank its proof to me. Like it drank under its proof. But let me tell you, if you are a cigar smoker, that is the one to smoke a cigar with, because that one is fruity and sweet and savory. It's a great cigar whiskey as well. Darrell, what did you think about? Have you cracked yours?
No, mine should be here in the next day or so. I just got some tracking info on it, I think yesterday, actually.
Nice.
So it'll be here. But I remember it from when we were picking it out in California. Heavy influence. Like, I do like finished whiskeys, single malts, and just finished stuff in general. But like you mentioned, it does have a good amount of that Madeira on that whiskey. Like, it's no denying it. You know what I mean? So if you like finished stuff, if you like Madeira, if you like port, like it's all in that realm. But yeah, American single malt for me, man, is picking off a bit. Like, I started in shot, but diving back into the malt, kind of fun after being in bourbon and rye for like the last couple of years, you know. So mixing it up every now and then shocks the palate a bit, but it's tasty nonetheless.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was very satiating for me. Like, I kept wanting to go back to it, and my wife, who does not drink whiskey, loved smelling the glass of that. So that should tell you something. She was digging that.
So no giveaways tonight. So if you're thinking about super chats, please go support the drop. That's the best way to support the channel right now. So without further ado, I think we're through all the introductory stuff. Let's pull on our special guest. Everybody, give a warm welcome to Jay.
Hey, good evening.
Hey, Jay, nice to have you with us and actually put a face to a name, at least for me. So,
same for me too.
It's not pretty, but it's here, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Should have done this sooner. I'm glad that we were able to get you on and talk about some fun stuff for you and fun stuff coming up as well.
Hell yeah. Better late than never. No, I appreciate you guys' time. I'm looking forward to it.
So, man of many names, you wear a lot of hats. So I am curious, getting to know you a little better here, even hearing it from you. Like, what's your background? How'd you get to this particular spot? You know, I think you've been on this journey now for like 10 years. What happened to bring Jay to this moment?
Man, I've been told that we have a hard cutoff, and I'm a man who sticks to the cutoff. So we'll be quick, but it's really wild, right? We were talking in the green room that like time flies. You guys are almost to your 3 year, just celebrated 3 years, celebrated 10 years in July. We actually hosted a big festival in Middleburg called 10 Years of Take, which wasn't really about me, but it was really about everyone that sticks with you in a journey to get you to 10 years, right? Like, people talk about anniversaries. It's not about you making it 10 years. It's about you making with people 10 years and people making with you and supporting you along the way, which is really cool. But, whiskey started for me in a interesting place. I went to college, as most people do, and some people do, but during college, it was, my early days of college, I actually couldn't drink alcohol because of a pancreatic thing I had going on. And then, early in college, I got medically cleared, and they said, well, you can drink a little bit of alcohol. You can have 2 drinks a night. And so I thought, like, why would I have 2 terrible, terrible beers or 2 terrible anything? So I'm gonna try some other stuff, And so I tried gin, and that wasn't really for me. And I tried tequila, and that wasn't really for me. And granted, my budget was like $7, and so I wasn't drinking the best of anything. But I had a mini of Wild Turkey 101, and it was really great. And I was like, okay, this is actually tasty. And like, people around me were like, drinking straight whiskey, like in a respectful way, right? Like, I wasn't like downing shots and stuff. And so I told myself after college that I would get into whiskey, and I would check out some of these flavors when I had more than $7. And so, in 2015, I got into trying a couple whiskeys, and I thought, well, how am I going to remember them? I should probably write down which ones I like and don't like. And I thought, I come from an engineering background where you take notes and you submit those notes to the public, and people tell you you're wrong. And I thought, there's no better place to do that than Reddit. And so, because if you post something and you're wrong, Reddit will tell you. And I have been thankful for that. But, really long story short, I started posting on Reddit in 2015, and I thought that I would give up after a period of time or get bored of it. And I never gave up. I never got bored. I discovered this incredible community. I became a part of that community. Part of that community was like, hey, like you should actually have a little responsibility in this community. You're kind of good at what you do. And then we started the barrel program, and really a lot to say. I founded a blog. I sold that blog to a media company. I left that media company this March to do whiskey kind of like in a production capacity full time. And so, it's amazing when you see that little piece of dirt become a pebble, and then it rolls down the hill and it becomes a rock, and then it runs you over at some point, and it keeps going, it becomes a boulder. And so my journey in whiskey has been kind of a landslide of just putting one foot in front of the other and seeing what happens. Every time I tried to set goals, or every time I said in a couple of years I want to do this, like the whole reason I started drinking whiskey was that maybe I would know enough about it that when I retired, a whiskey bar would hire me. And now I'm 32, and I think a whiskey bar will probably hire me when I'm 65, but like we'll probably have gotten a little bit done before then. So it's been a wild ride, but really it's the people I've met along the way, and it's the people like you guys, and it's the personalities and the people that surround you when you're interested in whiskey that have made it feel like the blink of an eye.
Nice.
Oh,
Absolutely.
very, very cool there. I mean, and with all those different, journeys through there, I mean, essentially just like doubling down on the experience. It sounds like just about every 5 years, 3 years, you accumulated a new role, a new hat, got deeper into the industry.
And
Can you give us a favorite moment that you've actually had then in this industry the last 10 years? Could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, I have two favorite moments, right? Like I actually got into whiskey, and at the time I got into whiskey, my parents and I had a different relationship than we have now, right? And so like I didn't tell them I was getting into whiskey because it would not have been a popular choice. And so I got to call them the night before the news of Whiskey Raiders went live and basically be like, hey guys, we got to chat because like some really big publications are about to run pieces about this thing. And like, it's relevant because I'm in this thing. So like, let's talk about whiskey and how it is like a professional thing. And that was really cool. But like, really, I think my favorite moment is when my wife was like, hey man, you work a lot, and like, it'd be really cool if you ditched corporate America and did this dream thing that you've been thinking about for a long time. And like, we'll figure it out, but just like do it. And I think that most people spend their whole lives looking for someone who will support them in that way and tell them to go do that really stupid but probably kind of cool thing. And so like, that was the moment where I realized that I wasn't just invested in whiskey, but the people around me were just as invested in whiskey. Like my wife drinks whiskey like once a month. Like we went to a bar last night and she drank whiskey. That is the only time she'll drink whiskey in the next 30 days. But like, to have someone, and that's indicative of a lot of the people around me. A lot of people I know would say that exact same thing, but my wife was like, dude, you're clearly okay at this whiskey thing, and like, we're going to be fine. So like, check it out, take the leap. And if it sucks, we can go back to corporate software. But like, I think that that's a level of support that not everyone gets. And it's a huge privilege, but also it let me do this thing and be here with you guys and do crazy stuff like this. And I can't take that for granted.
Nice.
Nice.
That's awesome. Ed, thank you so much, buddy. I just know that we appreciate all the support. And, thank you.
Cheers, sweet Cindy.
Yeah, there's Ed. Yeah, thank you, Ed. Appreciate you, buddy.
Always coming through.
Super cool. All right. Well, why don't we get into your latest adventure then? So, introduction to the brand, even taking it back to its like roots, like the root of the name, the inspiration, all that kind of stuff.
Sure, totally. So for everyone who doesn't know, and I see some folks who do know, like I saw Connoisseur Cigar in the chat and 21090s there. I had the pleasure to meet Connoisseur at an event just this past week. But I'm the principal whiskey maker for a brand called the Reveries, which a lot of you know a lot about, and also the principal whiskey maker for a brand called 1787 Provenance, which a few of you know a little about. And so it's really cool. You guys, I think, are actually bona fide. You can take this to the bank, first live stream, to talk about really both of those things, but mostly Provenance. But tonight, the story starts in an interesting place in that I've been working on both of these brands for a really, really long time. And Provenance is really just launched this past Monday. And so like I think you and I were talking about this episode before I actually knew that you would know about Provenance. And Reveries launched in February. So as far as whiskey brands go, they're both really new experiences to the public. They aren't new experiences to me because I've been sourcing these whiskeys and holding onto these whiskeys and accumulating these whiskeys and squirreling away these whiskeys for a really long time. But really, the hardest part of launching anything is not the work and it's not the prep, but it's physically, and I'm sure you guys experience this with building a YouTube channel, right? Is the moment that you press publish for the very first time when you're like, because once you press publish, you can't ever go back. Once that goes out into the world, you can't take it back. And so, you know, the Reveries and Provenance, I've been sourcing the whiskey, that I've been building them and working on these releases. But like the moment you release it for the first time is when it goes into the world, and that moment you never get to take it back. And so it's a really hard time when you start a brand, but also it's like the most thrilling because once you press go, it's into the world and you can't stop it. You now have to ride it and channel it, and you have to be a part of it. And so I launched the Reveries in February, which was kind of the first. This is my experimental. I kind of call it the tip of the iceberg. It's the weird, the wacky, the wonderful, the things that I irresponsibly purchased when people were like, well, how are you going to sell that thing? And I was like, I also have no idea, but it's so cool. I have to have it. Well, I was building Provenance, which is whiskey so good that I need everyone to try them and have them and share them and bond over them. And those two together kind of create everything that's going on at Middleburg. But the Reveries, you know, is the first. So we'll kick off with that. And that's what I think is the first part in your glass. You know, Reveries, I've had this idea since before Westworld, which is really important because the Reveries is like takes up like 2 scenes of like the first season of Westworld. And a lot of people are like, big fan of Westworld, huh? And I was like, yes, but no, but also yes. A Reverie really is the moment where you realize that you've been lost in what's called a dreamlike state. And so it's not a coma and it's not a daydream, but to be lost in a reverie is in a moment where everything is so enthralling to you that you forget where you are and what's happening and what's wrong and what's right and what's going well. And so the Reveries was kind of my ability to release weird and wonderful whiskeys that gave me that feeling when I tasted them, but also as a personal reminder that like working in whiskey is an ultimate pleasure, and getting to deal with people and getting to introduce people and talk to whiskey and share the moments that come with whiskey is an ultimate pleasure. But also I want to release whiskeys that are so interesting and so good that you can't help but slow down time and just think about like in this moment, like you're sitting at, like, even if it's a dive bar, right? And you're drinking something amazing, you're just like, wow, this is really good. And I'm blessed to be sitting here just kind of losing myself in this moment. And so like the Reveries is kind of a stylized version of that, right? Like it's very irreverent branding. My goal is not to look like anything else. Let's see if I can get this. Like the goal is not to look like anything else on the shelf. It wasn't to say I'd revived someone's old recipe or, you know, acquired these crazy stocks that just had to be $1 million a piece. And the goal wasn't, you know, to become some like private equity machine. But the goal was really that like I have a very select amount of whiskeys and I've been tasting them for a very long time, and it's ready to release them so folks can taste them and get lost in them. And it's kind of, you know, I've been selecting single caps for a long time, but this was my way to kind of release them on my terms. And I say we start with straight bourbon, which is really cool, but the rabbit hole goes really deep. I have gin, I have rum, I have all sorts of crazy stuff. I've stuff at 159 proof. I have stuff like you guys are tasting tonight. Like it's really kind of a toy box of experimental things that I got to work on while I was really building Provenance, which is kind of a more conventional whiskey, but is meant to kind of impact those power of shared moments and also be available and really well priced and just like be the most solid whiskey that you always have to have. And so it's a great place to kick off. Like that was 10,000 words and you guys were all probably like, Jesus Christ, this guy should just stop talking. But
I love the word. When I'm at Jason's event in October and we're going to the bottle share, I'll be like, I'm in a reverie. That'll be part of that moment.
That's if you can pronounce. That's if you can pronounce the word when you're drinking.
The Macho Man outfit might get in the way too, but we'll see.
Hopefully people aren't like, sure, okay, grandma, let's get you to bed. They're like, reverie, you know, and you know, it's not a common word, but it's one that I found was striking. I love it. And to me, really, it's just really important, right? Like even on the worst day of doing whiskey, because there's a lot of paperwork in whiskey, and most of it's the unfun kind of paperwork, but like even on the worst day, like I still work in whiskey, man. I'm gonna release whiskeys that hopefully people are excited to buy and excited to try and excited to enjoy and share with each other. And that to me is worth thinking about and dreaming about all of the time.
Absolutely. The best or the worst day in whiskey is way better than the best day in corporate America. I can definitely
Totally.
that.
And I bailed out of corporate America to do this. So I share that in and that to me is just really important, right? Like a lot of people love to complain about whiskey all the time. And I used to be one of those people, but like it's whiskey, man. This is the best time you could ever possibly be into whiskey. So like let's just live it up and enjoy it because you know eh, you don't get tomorrow. You might, but you don't. It's not a guarantee.
Exactly.
Man, I like my
let's see.
job. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, but I bet if they were like, hey, so you want to take no PTO this year, you'd be like, oh no, I'm definitely gonna take PTO. I'm definitely not gonna come in on a Saturday. Like,
His-
Well, yeah, I've been using the PTO to go on the barrel.
Yeah.
on the barrel
I was
is
gonna
very
say
soon.
his first words would be, hold on a second, that this requires a spreadsheet. Let me get the spreadsheet out.
That's true.
Hey, I think the world
I gotta-
runs on spreadsheets, and if it doesn't run on spreadsheets, it's just not your job to run the spreadsheet. Like it's really
That's not my job. I hate looking at spreadsheets. I don't know how the people that have to do that all day long do it because I would go absolutely bonkers and probably hurt somebody if I had to look at spreadsheets all day.
that's really the matter of the fact, right? But like I don't know. Life is short. Enjoy it. And I loved my time in corporate America. Like it took my wife being like, please, man, can you just have less jobs so we can go on vacation sometime? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. But to bring it back to the whiskey, the first pour of the night is actually, I hope is memorable because I think few live streams hopefully start with tasting what I think is one of the crowns. And then we'll get to the really weird stuff. But the Reveries is a really interesting collection of oddities. So like the first pour tonight is a 17-year. I've got a little bit of that in my glass. 17-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It's got gorgeous color. One of the things that's most important to me across both provenance and the Reveries is some people sort by proof, some people sort by boldness or flavors. I always sort by tannin. And so tannin is super important to me because tannin determines whether you want to have another sip of that whiskey or whether you're like, nope, I'm actually good. It's meaty and dry and gnarly and it sucks the moisture in your mouth. And you're like, actually, I'm going to move on to something more refreshing, something more palatable, something more crushable, as the kids would say these days. I love the 17-year whiskey because it's full and it's bright and it's full of fruit and it's really complex, but it doesn't have so much tannin that you're not ready to go back for more is my hope for you. And that's why I've been loving bottling some of these right now is they like the whiskeys that I think could actually get to 22 years old, right? Like a lot of people are like, how can Van Winkle get to 23? Like it must taste awful. But like, no, clearly there's some casts that taste okay to get to 23 years old. And like this has that tannin structure at 17 where I actually think it could really go and be older and go longer, and it's got fruit and it's got lovely complexity. And so my goal with Reveries is also like kind of break some conventions, right? But like this is old and it's expensive, and a lot of people are like, man, like this is some crazy stuff, but also like 17-year-old whiskey can be really good without being super oaky. Like a lot of people just assume that old whiskey tastes like licking the fence post, and I don't enjoy those things. And so one of my pledges is that I'm not going to release something in the Reveries that I don't think tastes amazing, something I'm not going to purchase myself, something I don't want to drink every day. And so finding high age statement whiskeys that don't taste like bitter, gnarly oak was something I never thought I would really be able to do until this lot of whiskey came along, and it like tastes like fruit and cherry cola and tobacco and root beer and all these beautiful, lively, vivacious things. And that's what really got me going about this release.
All right.
Yeah, the legs on this is crazy. I was holding it up to the camera, but it's just dripping everywhere.
Yeah,
And it's really like, I say only, but it's like 136 proof. So like it's high proof, but it's not so high where you're like, well, of course it has legs. It's nearly on fire. But the viscosity on it is unbelievable.
I haven't took a sip. I've just been nosing. Like it's super, super bold in the nose. A little bit of citrus, but just really dark. And like you get the oak, but I wouldn't immediately think 17 years, which I don't think is a bad thing. I'll probably get more of it maybe on the palate, but it doesn't scream out that it was like super, super old, but like it's just so bold and dark on the nose, which is lovely.
Oh, parenting.
Sorry. My wife came home. I didn't know. Sorry. But
That's
super
okay. My
bold,
dog's looking
a
at
little
me
bit of
like,
citrus.
sir.
But I'm gonna
Go in on it,
Cortez.
Darrell. You're
Yeah.
leaving me in suspense.
Jay, you said you've been squirreling these away for a while. Do you have a particular place that you can disclose or talk about where you aged them, or is it somewhere else that you?
Yeah. No, this is I'll give you $5 later because you're the perfect segue. So the Reveries lives in Middleburg, Virginia, and a lot of people say like, why the hell to be in Middleburg, Virginia? I moved to DC in April, and really my goal was to move here to be closer to the whiskey. I spent 17 weeks in DC last year, and so when we moved, my wife was also like, "Hey, wait, if we move to DC, I'll actually get 4 more months of you every year." And I said, if that's good, yes, and if that's bad, then no. And she's like, yeah, that's good. So let's do it. But really, so Middleburg, we have my partners and I have the Middleburg estate. It's called Provenance Estate now, after this beautiful whiskey brand. But the historic Mortgage Hall estate we acquired in 2020 and really have been working on for the last 5 years. It's both to be hospitality, right? Like a lot of people don't look at Virginia and say Virginia is the place to go for whiskey. And I understand that because Kentucky is the place to go for whiskey conventionally. And you can, and I love going to Kentucky. I go to Kentucky like 10 times a year, but you can only go to Kentucky so many times. And also, Virginia is an amazing state. There's actually great distillers, but it kind of kills me that people overlook Bowman and Catoctin and all these places. And so when we had an opportunity to convert the Mortgage Hall estate to Provenance estate and start like moving all of this whiskey to the estate, it was a no-brainer. We have 125 acres and 2 donkeys, and that's not to say that the 2 donkeys own the 125 acres, but if you ask the donkeys, they would totally say that. But really, it gave us kind of the canvas or the building blocks to create this big whiskey vision that relies on people and shared moments and the opportunity to just have a place to gather. And so, I won't say it's super close to DC. It's about an hour west in Middleburg, Virginia, but it's a crazy place. The estate was originally built in 1820 by Andrew Mellon from the Carnegie Mellon family. It was transitioned in 1877 to Sears and Roebuck and Co., who became the people who sent out a lot of catalogs. It's changed hands. It's been part of land that was broken up. That it's involved in the history of Virginia, and so all of the whiskey lives there. Whether it's for Provenance, whether it's for Reveries, whether it's for Hunt Country, which is the Hunt Country bourbon is what we're calling the estate only whiskey. So if you come and stay with me, you can taste Hunt Country. It's not, it's not like, wow, they have a 25-year-old bourbon. It's estate only, but we have whiskeys that are made for the Middleburg area because we're passionate about the Middleburg area, and we're working on a farmers relief fund because it's all agriculture and horses. And if you lose your farm, you lose it all unless you have a bunch of whiskey, which most people don't in Middleburg. So, it's really to say that like a lot of places are NDPs, but you can never go and visit them. You can't see the whiskey in person. You can't meet the people and have those stories and have those experiences. And so Middleburg is where we had the 10 years of Take Festival to kind of be like, will people drive to Middleburg? And the answer was yes. 200 people drove to Middleburg, and it was an amazing time. And so, building out this estate is so that folks who want to do barrel picks can come stay in our historic manor house. Like people can hang out with the donkeys, and I'll cook them food and, really get back to what I think whiskey is all about, which is just like get your buds and let's have a good time in a respectful way. And like, we'll learn some history and we'll see beautiful rolling hills, but like, you're going to taste some amazing whiskey because it's all here. And you're going to get to taste it all if you come out and visit us and feed the donkey a carrot, all that kind of stuff. So it's, it's a long story to say that like the Reveries all lives in Middleburg, Virginia, where Provenance lives and Hunt Country lives. And, if you so indulge yourself with the drive, you can come and taste it in person.
Well, I'm tasting this, and this is amazing. So on the nose, like I said, I don't really get 17 years. On the palate, it's no denying it. Like it tastes like old whiskey, but in a very good way. Not over oaked, which I love oak anyway. So there's not many whiskeys to me that I get too much oak. Like a lot of people talk about couple different brands. 18 here, 20 year, and it just be a little oaky. But for me, like I've never really had something that was just over oaked. But this here is like that nice, sweet, funky oak, right? You're drinking something that's 15 plus, right? Rich, bold, lovely cherry note. But it's just so dark, rich, molasses, vanilla, like all that quintessential bourbon note. Like vanilla, molasses, like not really so much chocolate, but like that nice deep cherry, like black cherry. And that finish is just crazy. You did say it's 136, but this thing punches. Wow. God, the other one's gonna be tough to follow. This one, holy moly!
When people come for barrel picks, I say my job is to give you the hardest barrel pick that you've ever been on, right? Like we've all been on barrel picks where you're like the 6 whiskeys and nope, and then you're between 2 and you spend 30 minutes on those last 2 and then you're like, cool, let's go get some lunch. But like my goal, if you ever picked at places like Four Roses or Knob Creek, right? Like where you're like, this is certifiably work. Everything's amazing. Everything's incredible. And so, one of my pledges with the barrel program is that if you show up to pick barrels, I've tasted everything that morning and I think it's ready to go. And so my hope is that I watch you squirm and agonize and fight with your buds and throw hands in a peaceful, respectful way over which you think is the best, because like, I think all of them, no matter what you're picking, is going to be an incredible whiskey. So I'm glad you enjoy it. I think the other ones will follow it up because I've put a lot of sweat and tears into making them follow up. But
I'm real curious now. Like the color on the MLC is actually darker than a 17-year-old. It looks like.
Yeah. So we're just gonna roll with the first, man. Like I think the email will go out on Saturday. So if you're watching this between Wednesday night and Saturday, you heard it here first. And if you watch it on Sunday, I'm sorry you're late, but you'll also get a good dollop of information. But, the Reveries kicked off with a single barrel program. And that was really important because I had a lot of amazing single barrel whiskeys. But the real story is that I was releasing these while building provenance, which is ultimately supposed to be more national, more available, more opportunity for folks to come from all over, because the Reveries is actually super tiny. It's unsustainably tiny. It's painfully tiny. It's so tiny that folks email me all the time and go like, we want to pick a ton of Reveries. And I go, well, you can have 1 or 2 because it's really all I have. And so, Reveries is kind of my sandbox, my lab, my clinic, whatever you want to call it, while building provenance. But, moving forward, a lot of folks have also attached with the Raven blend. And I wish I had a bottle here, but I actually went to a lot of tastings and I kept pulling bottles of Raven from my cabinet. People know this. And then the other day I went to pull and I was like, yeah, I'm going to a tasting. I'll just get another bottle of Raven. And I drank through them all. And so if you out there have more than 1 or 2 bottles of Raven batch 1 or 2, you have more Raven than I have because I was an idiot. So I will save a lot of Raven 3 for myself. But Raven is my premium blended whiskey, right? It's the whiskey I wanted to put crazy components, 9, 10, 14-year-old whiskeys into. I wanted to tell you where they came from, Kentucky, Indiana. I gave you the mash bills and stuff like that. Like blending whiskeys where my accountant was like, you have to be insane to do this. And I was like, nope, still doing it. And folks really liked that whiskey, but they kept asking if they could have a private select of Raven. And it's really hard because Raven, was hundreds of bottles and most people don't want hundreds of bottles for a barrel pick. So MOC stands for Murder of Crows, which is the scientific, not dramatic, but scientific name for a group of crows. And so crows are smaller than ravens. Ravens are a big piece of the Reveries for me because the property in Middleburg has 7 very big ravens. And I've been feeding one of them pistachios since February. And so he's kind of, I don't want to say like friend because you guys will be like, wow, Jay's actually crazy. But when you sit out in the country by yourself and make whiskey for a long time, like a bird is a really nice friend to have. Yeah. Because you're like, I'm talking to the bird. I'm not talking to myself. And people are like, no, you're talking to yourself. But like, they don't call your psychiatrist over it. They just chalk it up and you move on. But a crow is smaller than a raven. I've created the blend that would have been Raven 5 is Murder of Crows, and that's actually gone into rebarreling, and so folks can actually pick their own single cask of what would have been a Raven blend. So it's a palatable volume of a really great whiskey. Some of it's a neutral oak, some of it's in French oak, some of it's an American oak. So I'm curious of the sample you have. Your sample's an American oak, but you're the first person to ever taste it outside of the walls of the distillery. And so you might be like, man, we should call the psychiatrist. But if not, and you enjoy it, I really enjoy this. So, the goal is that Reveries was always supposed to be a moving target of experimental, crazy things. And so I've always wanted to move towards being a blend. I'm really passionate about blends and selecting barrels, but Reveries over the next year is going to move to basically all blended product, like crazy experimental stuff, some rum, some cognac, some Armagnac, some gin, heaven forbid. And it's really going to occupy this experimental place in my brain. Well, like provenance is going to be straight bourbon whiskey. It's going to be 7 to 20 years old based on what we have in stock. And so like, you can come experience both of those on the same barrel pick, but they very clearly occupy different sides of your brain. And Murder of Crows is like a very avant-garde thing to call it, but it seemed to me like a group of smaller birds or one really big bird, and now you have kind of the etymology of a big blend, and blends are available for private select. So I wish.
What were the ages on this blend, Jay?
I haven't disclosed them, but it would be, let's see.
Oh, shit.
9, 10, 14, 15. Yeah. 9, 10, 14, 15.
9, 10, 14, 15.
So
wow.
my goal is to still blend things that make my accountant go like, "What are you doing, dude?" But if it tastes good,
right?
Like that's what it's all about. Like I think it was really cool. I sent a bottle to Jason. Jason's a good friend, Mash and Drum. Of course, he waited till Raven 1 and Raven 2 sold out. And then he reviewed on his channel, and he was like, "Shit, dude, like this is actually really good." And I was like, we talk about when you press publish and it goes into the world, and you just have no idea. The first batch of Raven, I sent it out, and I was like, "This is it. I've been working on this blend, and I think it's good." And I've been nitpicking it for weeks, but like now it's time to just see what people think. And so far, generally, people have really enjoyed it. So it gives you this tremendous pressure that now 2 has to be better than 1, and 3 has to be better than 2, and Murder of Crows has to be way more interesting than all of those things. And so the pressure mounts, but it's become a fun challenge to myself.
You said this one was American oak?
Go ahead.
American oak, yeah.
American oak.
In doing all these blends, Jay, and drinking whiskey for a long time before them, what is the one thing you enjoy most about blending, or what is the one thing that you hate the
Picking up feedback from.
That's
Oh, there we go. Cool. I couldn't tell if there was like an airplane going down right behind. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's Jeffrey.
Well, if we see the crash. But blending is really cool to me because a lot of people still think that single barrels are better than blends could ever be. And like if you build a blend right, you have amazing complementary things that can elevate. Yeah, you can also make a terrible blend. I made a lot of terrible blends. My goal is that I never bottle a terrible blend, but sometimes you're like ABC, amazing. Let's put them together. And then you're like, wow, I just watched a train wreck in real time. But the cool part to me with blending is that you can take things in any which direction, right? Like the human brain loves tannin, sugar, acid. You can try things, right? You can put together barrels that shouldn't work and they do work. You can put together all these things, but more importantly, you can create the experience you want your drinker to have, right? Like if you want something, like you have people who are like, man, I love big fudgy whiskeys, and other people are like, I love big acid tannin bombs, or like, people who just are proof hounds. Like blending gives you the opportunity to engage with those people in a way that you as the blender see fit. And also like it gives you an opportunity to create the paints. Like before you create a blend, you have to identify all the paints, which I love. It's just like picking single barrels. I'm picking barrels that I think are really good, but also some barrels that I think are like, this barrel would be perfect because it has so much of this, but it doesn't have enough of that. And I think that I can actually put that thing it's missing in by the process of blending. And that to me is so cool, because what people would be like, this barrel's unbalanced. I'm like, actually, I think that's 80% of the way to greatness. And we just need to find that 20%. Whereas the hardest part of a blend is that you can work on it forever. Like I will not pretend that I am some great painter, and I do not have a Mona Lisa on the way from my perspective, but like you could paint forever. You could build buildings forever. They could never be finished in your mind. And it's really hard. And the hardest part, and my least favorite part, is being like, okay, I think this has achieved everything I wanted it to, and I've tried to tweak it 100 times and it's not getting better. And I think that actually means that I'm more exactly where I should be. But now I'm getting to the psycho part of it, where you're just like hyper fixating on these things, and you have to tell yourself to walk away and do something else, like drive the forklift, do some paperwork, leave, come back days later. And it's really, that to me is the least favorite part, because there's no destination. There's no sign that pops up that says like, Jay, you've arrived, and I always assumed that you'd get to the moment and like the light bulb would go off and you'd just be like, it's perfect. But that also to me is cool. It's a journey, right? That means you can take that journey 100 different ways. It's up to you to decide when you're done or not. And my favorite way is that whether groups know it or not, when you come to do barrel picks of Provenance and Reveries, I taste people on stuff all the time. And if they're like, holy shit, dude, I would buy this today, I'm like, okay, we're going to mark one in the we're almost there column, And if folks like, wow, that's wild, what's next? Then I'm like, okay, we are not there yet, And so You know, blending to me is just process. It's just like talking to people. It's just like having a conversation. Like, you know, if things are going well, you could sit and talk all night long. And if things are done, you know you're done and you need to move on. But blending to me is the opportunity to make whiskeys that you just can't find in any other permutation of whiskey. So
we're blending, I guess, hobbyists, I guess you would call it. Obviously not doing it with barrels, but in our basements all the time. We even send each other blind flights of blends and see if we can deconstruct them and pick the components and all that type of thing. Darrell's won Jason's blend again twice now, to my chagrin. I'm gonna get one eventually here, Darrell.
What's your secret? Because the first time, I have to imagine you were like, wow. But the second time you're like, I have figured it out. What's your secret?
I still don't think I figured it out, Jay. To be honest, it's just like I like blending. I've been doing it prior to his streams, but really never like shared it until like kind of meeting these guys. But
okay,
I just try to find something that's a strong base, then complement it with certain notes that I like. And sometimes I cater to the judges, right? I know Jay loves certain notes, so I'll try to cater a whiskey to that palate just for that reason. But if it's just blending a blend, you know, I try to just find something that maybe even isn't that good sometimes to see if I can make it better by blending something else in. But just finding notes off of whiskeys that I like and just seeing if it can complement, you know, the other whiskeys. But I found certain brands, Turkey and like Green River and MGP, go really, really good together. So I've been messing around a bit with those three distilleries, man. Like you can't really go wrong with blending those together. Like they're really, really good.
Okay, sweet.
So what are you thinking of this one, Darrell?
So this one is way brighter on the nose and on the palate. More citrus, more orange peel. Like I'm not sure mash bills or where this is from, but like I would venture to say maybe Indiana with all the citrus that I'm getting. It's really, really nice on the nose. Like I was going back, like I don't know if you've seen me going back to A. I was trying to see which nose I preferred more. Which I prefer the palate of A, but I may prefer the nose of this Mother of Pearls over that 17-year, which is kind of crazy. But it hits me where I like. Like I like the citrus and like more brighter noses sometimes. Although, yeah, the palate on the first one, the 17, is just kind of crazy. But it's, you know, it's high age bourbon. You know, like it's proofy on the nose. It's dark. It's rich. But this is just brighter and just fun. It's more fun on the nose.
Excellent. I will take more fun every day.
No, like it's those whiskey. It doesn't really taste like I have some stuff that tastes similar to the 17, right? Like I do got stuff that tastes similar to this, but it's not as. It's just a little bit more different, you know.
Totally.
Which I like.
And like
diversity.
And that's the fun of it, right? It's like you have single barrels and you have blends. Like, you know, to me, blending is about creating like a holistic experience, and a single barrel is like a perfect snapshot of time. But and also like they're wildly different. You know, I think Murder of Crows right now is like 127 proof, which you know is kind of funny to be like, oh, it's a low proof pour for your Wednesday night. You know, it's still clocking north of 60. But you know, and the integration of secondary oak is really fascinating because a lot of people put stuff in new oak, and after like 10 days, they're like, man, it's starting to taste really woody. We better pull it before it gets woodier. But really, you have to have the self-control to leave it in oak. You have to get through primary maturation. You have to get into secondary maturation. You're going to see different characters. And so like, you know, and it's also really hard when it tastes really good after 10 days. You're like, wow, this tastes great. We should just pull it now. We're like, no, we need to let this thing sit. And like, you know, part of my goal is that I'm building next year's blends today because all of these things, you can't cheat time in the initial maturation. You certainly don't want to cheat time when you're blending it. If you're going to finish anything at all, even a neutral oak, like, you know, when I do a blend and it needs to sit in a plastic tub for a really long time, like that still takes time for everything to kind of marry and hang out, whether it's in metal or an IBC or a tote or whatever. Like, you know, I've learned that you can't just make whiskey overnight. So you just gotta let it sit, think about itself. You have to have the self-control and not drink it all while you're waiting for it, you know, and taste it to death and stuff. But I'm glad you're enjoying it.
That's probably always the philosophy that when we get to talk to people is always interesting to hear them. It's like some people measure it like hour by hour. Like, gotta take it out when it's just right. You know, almost like it's like slicing into an avocado. Like you gotta hit it just right. Other people are like, set it and forget it, and it'll tell me when it's good. And
Yeah.
It's fascinating too, right? Because I try and ride that scale really well, right? Like if you taste it, like watch pot never boils. If you taste it, if you taste it every hour, what information are you going to get from that? Also, but like if you taste it every year, it could take a turn while you weren't looking, and now you have this other scenario. So, what I say is basically like I taste through all of our inventory as often as possible because I'm working on all these different projects. But once I pull something as close to ready, I want to taste that, hopefully every week if I can, but never more than every 30 days. And, that actually might be the worst part of the job is be like, I am tired and there are 40 whiskeys to taste today. And you're like, but we soldier on and we do it because like that's what you should do. And like, having that resolution, having those data points of all those whiskeys is actually super important because sometimes they go like, I thought this was almost ready. And in the last 10 days, it actually took a turn and I don't like it anymore. We gotta, I want to put that back in a hot warehouse and we're just going to let that roll through a couple more summers because like clearly it's not ready yet. But, so people were like between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. is when it will be ready. I don't think that the palate has that resolution. I also don't think that like whiskey ages that fast, but also like people were like, I don't know what happened, man. I just walked away and 14 months later I came back and it was different. Like what could have happened? Like, there's some middle ground there that I think is really important, but you gotta keep up on it. That's important. You gotta taste your whiskey. You gotta taste your whiskey and know what it's been up to while you've been walking away.
Well, I think that the cool thing about blending is that it's an art, but it's also data driven at the same time if you're smart about it.
Totally.
Because you're pulling
Spreadsheet.
data. I know, spreadsheet.
100%.
You're pulling data not only about your blend, you're pulling data on distilleries, how old they were when you put them in and like what they did, how they turned out, like what you liked about this particular, if you bought several barrels in the lot, what we liked about this particular lot, all kinds of data driven that's going to, again, just make you a more attuned blender artist as you progress in your blends. We were talking to Jonathan Mazzano from K. Luke, and one of the amazing things that I kept finding about his whiskeys is I felt like, I don't know if he intentionally thought this, but almost every batch has gotten a little bit better every single time. And it's very difficult to do that, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's impressive of the that he's spending the time tasting these things and tweaking them and getting better and learning from the process that he just finished before.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I found the most interesting about blending as opposed to single barrels is that it's an art, but it's also data driven in the art of the information that you're able to gather from it. So that's the cool part to me about it. And the people that do it is because they're not just whiskey tasters, they're data people as well, and knowing what works and where to start and then where you want to go. Like you said, I want to go this direction this time. So that's cool, man. I really enjoy getting to hear the passion behind it.
And your point is well made in that, you have to be willing to take notes, right? Like some people just wing it and they do it. And I respect those people in a way because like I need to take notes. I forget my stuff all the time. And I've learned a lot from Jonathan, and he's a good friend, and carrying the batches and tasting each one of them. And it's funny to be like, I wonder what they were thinking when they made this whiskey, because here's what I'm thinking tasting this whiskey. And it's kind of cool. Like you're having that conversation through the bottle. Like it's not, it's like, what is it with the two tin cans and the string and stuff. And you're just like this is what I'm thinking. He was thinking when he was making this based on what it tastes like, but it is cool to taste those evolutions. And also, I always wonder, like Freddie Know It Beam, like how many iterations does he go through before we get the next Little Book or the next Bookers, right? And those people are only blending what Beam distilled. And now, granted, Beam is distilling like it's going out of style. They have mash bills and warehouses, they're doing crazy stuff. But like, I'm also really thrilled that people like Jonathan Maisano and myself can take whiskey from other distilleries, right? Like Heaven Hill would never be like, you know what this needs? 2% Beam, baby. Send it over, because like they're Heaven Hill. Like,
Right.
it'd be sacrilege if Heaven Hill didn't use Heaven Hill. And like I say that respectfully, right? Like they have so much amazing whiskey, but
Yeah.
you know, in the job of someone who's like kind of just a militant blender is just like, you know, you have stuff from this distillery and that distillery and this state of distillation and that mash bill and this cooperage and all that kind of stuff. And that like there's a freedom with it that's daunting, but there's a freedom also that I feel like some of our bigger, more accomplished and maybe more recognized distilling, you know, the geniuses of the world, like they actually have a little more sandbox than we might have. Like, sure, they have 1,000,000 barrels, and I'll never have 1,000,000 barrels, but also like I have stuff from like multiple different distilleries, and that's a really cool opportunity to take your own data, right? Like, does Freddie know probably have like, okay, if we had this much Heaven Hill, like it changes it this way. Like, no, his data is totally different, but everyone's collecting their own data and creating their own whiskeys, and I think that that's super, super cool.
No, absolutely.
Two quick questions here in chat, Jay.
Hit me.
First,
Providence
plans for
does not
still.
have a still. What I would tell you, and I am as honest as I can be, it is not a good time to be distilling, mostly because like, do I need to put in a still and have new age or new make? Not particularly. There's a lot of really great whiskey, and my job for so many years has been to go to distilleries and buy aged whiskey, and I love that because I get to meet the distillers, talk to their blending team. So, you know, buying new make isn't something that's really interesting to me. And also that's where my relationships and finding the provenance of those things isn't really relevant. But the more realistic answer is that I would be a terrible distiller. And so my goal is to focus on the things that I'm good at. I don't have a background in chemical engineering. I don't have a background in biochem. I have a background in math and science and optics and stuff like that. And so like I'm good at the technical side of some things, but not others. And so really, you know, I joke that if you come to the farm, like most of the doors still don't have doorknobs because I need to sell a lot more Reveries before we have doorknobs on everything. And so what that means is also like, you know, Provenance is just launching. Donkeys eat a lot of carrots. I have no doorknobs. I don't really have the resources to bring on what I think it would take to do that correctly. And you know, I'm not going to do something. My slogan is better right than fast, and so I'm lagging behind everyone else who's a bottler or an NDP. Right? People are just flinging barrels around. I'd rather be right than fast. And so, if we were going to do distilling, I would want to have a really capable, accomplished distilling team. And the truth is that like it's just not in the cards. I haven't sold enough whiskey. I don't really think that I need new make right now. And so I'm not going to say never because I used to say never a lot. I'd be like, oh, I could never work in whiskey full time, or like I could never buy a barrel of Lefroy, and that shit kept happening. So I won't say never, but for the next like 5 years, I really don't see it because my goal is to make the best whiskey releases and select the best barrels for provenance. And I'd also be distracted trying to like ferment strawberries and distill them because that's the stuff that I'm like interested in on the side. So I'm trying to keep my rabbit holes to a minimum. It does parlay nicely though, in that, you know, we have aged distillate. Provenance's 7-year is going to be a $70 price point. So $69.99, 107 proof single barrel Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. If you do a barrel pick, what's actually really cool, you can customize this part. Right now it's I don't know how close I can get and see it, but it's a map of fancy.
Solo.
Or you know, full screen.
Oh, there we go. They changed the buttons.
Yeah, so on the Provenance label, I'm gonna get my mug out of here. There's a historic map of the old Middleburg area and what's now Loudoun County. Groups can customize this. You'll get your barrel of cast strength. That becomes a $80 release at cast strength. So my goal really, you know, a lot of people say, but you could sell an $80 whiskey for up here. But the goal is really like, this is what $80 whiskey should cost or taste like, and this is what $70 whiskey should taste like. And so Provenance is a 7-year single barrel for release, 7-year, turning 8 very soon for the single barrel program at cast strength. What I did take though is some of my favorite 14-year releases, and because when you launch something, you got to make a splash, right? You gotta, and I wish I had a bottle here, but I think it's actually that guy in the background if you have eagle eyes. But there is a 14-year limited edition cast strength. Every year there will be a limited edition. I think we'll actually roll out a couple each year, so there's different seasons. But cast strength limited edition, distilled in Kentucky, 14-year, very similar to a Reveries release I did called No Clock Stops For Me, but it's $259.99. You can buy it online. You can buy it at Shared Pour. You can buy it soon at the VABC. You can buy it through 1 or 2 other stores as well. But that's kind of that's kind of like when you launch something, you should also put a little hot sauce on the side and get the people going. And the folks who know will know. And so they're wildly disparate price points, right? Like the 14 years, $259.99. That's the best price I could do, but I bought some insane stuff to make it happen. But really, the goal is that I want there to be a whiskey for every person who enjoys whiskey. If, I got a cask of something that yielded 12 bottles and it's $1,000, it's because that whiskey was insane and amazing and I had to have it. And otherwise the goal is just to price stuff so that people like us who open bottles and drink them and talk to them and want to give them to their friends. And like, one of my favorite things, and this is a great place, we got like 5 minutes, but
We're good.
the whole statement behind Provenance is that it's thoughtfully crafted for those who believe in the power of shared moments. And that's not like I hope I never see that behind like an airplane at the Super Bowl, right? Like it's not supposed to be some kitschy statement, but like, today has been a really long day, but the best part of it is sitting here on a video stream, sharing this moment and sharing whiskey with you guys. And like, I know so many people who are like, this whiskey tasted insane in the moment. I was sharing it with all these people and I tasted it by myself and it was still really good, but like, I still just remember that experience with people. And so, experience and luxury and premium are usually words that are substituted in to be like, we made that thing expensive because we thought it could be expensive. But like, everything I've experienced in the last 10 years is building whiskeys do you enjoy with people? Because when you enjoy whiskey with people, like people overlook barriers and they overlook differences and they overlook disagreements and arguments and they just like focus on what they love, which is whiskey. And so like this third pour is what you had, Jarrell, is one of my favorite single barrels of Provenance 7-year. The P is for Provenance. And it's just kind of like, you can have an insane whiskey and it's well curated that some guy with a beard and boots went struggling around through the warehouse and found and held aside and bottled for $70 is something that's really important to me.
It's a pretty good 7-year. It tastes. Is it minimum? You said it's a single barrel, so it has to be 7 years. I didn't know if it was a blend mixed with something a little higher because it actually drinks a little older for me, and the proof was surprising. You said 107 coming off of the Mother of Crows, which was like 126. Like
no, yours is a single barrel at cast strength.
Oh, so it's
like
higher
124, 5. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, what is going on? Yeah.
I was like, it's drinking close to the
and that's because it is. Yeah, it's like I think I gauged it at 124.5. It's one of the beautiful things, and hopefully this never gets back to like, but like when you select whiskey for a living, right? Like you're like, this one is astounding, and then you like can get on the forklift and move it over here and be like, when I do things like this, you can kind of you pick whiskey by profiles, but also when you find ones you super love and you're like, I need to launch this thing with a pizzazz. Like I'm gonna go to that barrel I put an X on 3 months ago that I found while I was doing inventory and stuff. So this is just like a standout 7-year barrel. It's 75, 21% for mash bill, 7 years, 10 months old. So yeah, it's got some. It's 7 in name only. It's getting really close to that 8. But I also laugh when people are like, "Oh, it's only 7 years old," and I'm like, 7-year, 10-month whiskey can taste super insane. So yeah, 124.5. So it's up there. It's up there.
Nice. Yeah, this is all 3 of these were really, really good. All 3 different too. Like middle one more on that citrus vibe. This kind of resembles the Mother of Crows a little bit on the palate with some of the brightness. The first one's just all like dark and rich, literally all the dark notes of bourbon is like on that one. But these complement that, like tasting them in that order. And that's probably why you had me do it in that order, maybe. But I was scared that the other 2 wouldn't really hold up to the 17-year. And they do complement each other really, really nicely.
Oh, yeah.
Not mad at all. And not even just saying that, man. We're honest, so I don't want you to think that I'm blowing smoke up the butt or anything. Like we're always honest when it comes to reviews. We would be tactful if we didn't like it, but no, these are.
I gotta say, man, after 10 years on Reddit, I can take it, and I think I'm not saying that's why I got picked for this job, but like you gotta have a thick skin, and so many it's and really too like it doesn't help me if people only say nice things. And so I appreciate do you really say nice things because that's what I'm working towards, right? But if someone was like, I thought this was fairly terrible, I would be like, oh, I'm going to write that down. And then we'll get them checked out, and then I'll go look at the whiskey. And I'm kidding. But like, it's good to have feedback, and I appreciate your feedback. And like, truthfully, you're the only person that's tasted Murder of Crows publicly. So if take that for what it's worth. But my goal is that there's always really interesting, really varied things coming out of everything we're doing between Provenance and the Reveries, because they're supposed to be holistic when put together, even though one focuses on wacky and experimental and really small, tiny things. And one of them focuses on what I want to be a really robust bourbon brand that just has only quality releases. But, that said, there's always good whiskey coming out, I think.
All right. Well, Kelsey, Darrell, any final questions here?
I just thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for what you do for the whiskey community and helping get great whiskey to people, not just with your brands, but with what you do through your other hats that you wear. So we very much appreciate it, and are very appreciative of your relationship with us and our channel, and look forward to continuing to work, and hopefully maybe in 2026, maybe get up to Virginia and hang out on the estate. And
please do.
You've made Kelsey think of ways for me to use my
but they won't feed themselves. So get it up here. Like I said, we have a 10-bedroom manor house that's in the process of being renovated for comfort. Like, it's a totally fine house, but it's built in the 1880s, so it's not as comfortable as maybe a hotel. But it'd be great to have you guys. And this goes for anyone in your audience, right? Like, if you are interested in doing a single barrel, if you're interested in coming by to say hi, I will get off the forklift and taste some whiskey with you. But I think the best way to experience Provenance and the Reveries is to find a group, come on down. We'll spend a night. We'll cook some food. We'll share in the experience together, right? Like, I think that a lot of people are like, oh, it'll be an experience, and that's a way to upcharge people. And I think that that's my final kind of sign off. But like, my goal is to share an experience with people and have a great time, because that's what I've been doing all this time, and now it's my job to have it in a good time. And so, if you're interested in experiencing it, come find me. We'll have a great time. We'll pick some whiskey. We'll taste. I think anyone 21090 can attest. If you show up, like, I stopped sending out samples because you can only send 3 by mail. But if you show up, we will drink a ton of whiskey, and we'll have a good time, and we'll hang out on the farm, and we'll show you what Middleburg's all about. So it's a pleasure, guys. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you letting me talk about the Reveries and Provenance, which I'm super pumped about. And I know that you'll have me back. I'll be back. And if not, I'll have you to the farm, and we'll have a great time.
Awesome.
All right. Maybe next time we have them on, we'll compete in a blind flight challenge too. Who knows?
Oh, that'd be fun. Blind flight blend challenge, just like we did with Jason, but we'll do it with do it with Jay. There we go.
God,
I like it. I work alone, but I'm still very competitive, so you can count on me for that.
As always,
well, thank you for joining, everybody. Have hit the top of the hour, so it is time to send you over to Jason C. over at the Mash and Drum. But appreciate all the comments coming in. Sounds like everyone enjoyed today's show, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys.
Cheers, everyone.